All right, so comics, right? Superheroes. I'm into it, but honestly, I gotta say, I'm not like a walking encyclopedia or anything.
No worries. We all start somewhere.
Yeah. So something I always wondered about was, like, how these comic book worlds, especially the one Marvel has built, how much do they actually reflect what's going on in the real world?
That's a great question. Representation in media is such a hot topic right now.
Sure, sure. And specifically, a lot of you out there have been asking us to look into how male and female characters have been, represented in Marvel Comics over the years. So that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, buckle up, everyone.
Here's your insight, watch the data glide. Gender decoded, let the beats collide.
Our deep dive today is to unpack some data about Marvel characters, and
Okay.
specifically when they first came out, like their debut,
Gotcha.
broken down by gender across like different like eras of Marvel.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
you're already familiar with like the iconic Marvel heroes, right?
Yeah, sure.
But today we're going to like zoom out and look at the bigger picture
Okay.
and like try to like understand like representation and stuff.
Sounds good.
So,
And it's really cool, like, because we can see
yeah.
how the world outside comics kind of influenced what was going on inside them.
Yeah.
And so this data, like, reveals so much about just, like, societal norms
Totally.
and, like, what the industry was doing.
Yeah.
And it's all, like, mirrored in, like, how these fictional characters changed.
Exactly. And you know what?
Yeah.
One pattern like jumps right out at you.
Oh, yeah.
This huge gender gap, especially in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Like way back in Marvel's early days.
Huh?
We're talking like the silver age of comics.
Right.
When like they were creating a ton of superheroes.
Yeah.
But there was such a strong like bias towards male characters.
Wow. Interesting.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about the 1960s.
Right.
Gender roles were so much stricter then.
Yeah, totally.
And of course, that like played out in the media too.
Mm-hmm.
Women were often like relegated to just like background roles.
Makes sense.
And the data makes it super clear.
Yeah.
Around 1963, the gap was the widest.
Okay.
Almost like 85% more male characters
Wow.
were introduced than female.
Huge.
It's like no wonder so many people only remember like the male heroes from back then.
Right.
Like Spider-Man,
Mhm.
Fantastic Four,
Mhm.
X-Men.
Totally.
Yeah.
All dudes.
Yeah, and this wasn't just like a Marvel thing either.
Right. The whole comic book industry was like that.
Yeah.
Like it really
Yeah.
reflected like what was happening in society.
Absolutely. But thankfully,
Yeah.
as we move through the decades, the gap starts to shrink.
Okay, that's good.
You can see like in the data, this like slow but steady rise
Uh-huh.
in new female characters,
Nice.
especially from the 2000s onward.
Okay. What do you think caused that shift?
Well, I think it's a few things.
Yeah.
You have more women becoming creators themselves,
Right.
bringing in like these fresh perspectives
Of course.
and like demanding better representation.
Absolutely.
The audience itself like changed too.
Huh.
Like more women and girls were reading comics
Yeah.
and like loving superhero stories.
Totally.
And I think there was just this growing awareness of representation
Yeah.
and like how important it is,
Yeah.
both within the industry and among the fans.
For sure. For sure.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
In 2005,
Yeah.
there was like a turning point. Marvel launched this new comic,
Okay.
all new, all different Avengers,
Uh-huh.
and it had a female majority team.
Wow.
And this marked like a major shift,
Okay.
like a significant jump
Yeah.
in like the number of complex female characters.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a great example of how like one event
Yeah.
can like totally ripple through the data, you know? And like when you look at 2015 to 2023,
Yeah.
Marvel is closer than ever
Yeah.
to having equal representation in like
Yeah.
all the new characters they're introducing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it's not perfect parody,
Right.
but it's a huge leap forward from
Sure.
those early decades.
It really makes you wonder, though,
What's that?
is this just Marvel, like, catching up?
Right?
Or are they truly committed to,
Yeah.
like, creating these powerful female characters?
Yeah.
I mean, the data only tells us so much, right?
Exactly. We need to think about the quality of the representation, too.
Yes, exactly.
Are these new female characters getting like complex storylines
Right.
and motivations and like agency?
Yeah.
Are their powers and abilities
Yeah.
on par with the male characters? Like
Totally.
that's what makes representation truly meaningful.
Right. It's not just about checking boxes.
Exactly.
It's about creating characters that resonate
yes.
and inspire people.
Absolutely.
We can't just look at quantity.
Yeah.
We have to examine, like,
Yeah.
the depth and nuance of their stories.
For sure.
So, we've come a long way
We have.
from that massive gender gap in the 1960s
Right.
to a more balanced landscape, in recent years.
That's great.
But the journey's not over, though.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the future of the Marvel Universe. Like,
Yeah.
given all this data,
Yeah.
does it lie in like these legacy characters or
Mhm.
like brand new creations?
Yeah.
What kind of stories do you think are going to resonate with fans
Right.
and shape the future of representation?
Yeah, what do you think?
It's going to be really interesting to see.
I can't wait to find out.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive,
My pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.